Hello, I'm Kathryn from the Sewing Studio Fabric Superstore and the Sewing Studio at Lady Lake. I'm super excited to talk to you guys about this week's how-to. I decided to go with a flat lock wave stitch on vinyl. What? Okay, so we had two customers come into the store and they showed me these bags that they had done, which were super cool. So a quick shout out to them. And I decided I would try it as well. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Pam. I appreciate it. So let's get started. So for this week's tutorial, I decided to take the flat lock wave stitch. This was a stitch that was created by Babylocks Australia educators. And it is a flat lock, but it is also a wave. So it's got a kind of funky and really weird stitching path. And so we're going to go over that. And I've always seen it done on fabric, but of course I'm a pusher. So I decided that I would try to do a little zipper tutorial with vinyl and the flat lock wave. And it totally worked. So let's talk about what we used in this. So I just used a nice contrast fabric that had nice clean lines because I wanted to see it from behind the vinyl. And I also like the idea of black and white with a pop of red. So any black and white print would do. I used a vinyl that we had on the roll, which was just a vinyl that came about hip high on a roll, and there's different weights, and I used just a mid-weight vinyl. However, as you go to explore and search for vinyls, there's all different kinds of vinyls out there. Kimberbell actually has different colored vinyls. So she's got product that is in all different colorways in packages of a pink family or a green family. And there's blues and greens in there. There's also a really cool, and we just started carrying it and I really love it, this iridescent Aurora Borealis vinyl, which just has a life of its own and it's super, super cool. So depending on what level of subtle versus obvious you want to go, you would pick your vinyl accordingly. So what I did was I went to research, and online at the Babylocks Australia, they have the flat lock wave stitch under their techniques. And they talk to you about how to set up the serger. So this is very helpful to look up online. If you are going to do this, you need to have a serger that has a wave stitch. So you need to start at that level of serger. All right, so let me just show you guys how this works. Basically, you're going to take your thread, and for this purpose, we're using, on our loopers, a stretch thread. So see how this thread has like no substance, and then once you pull it tight, it has substance. So it's kind of like loopy and loose and fringy, and then when you pull it tight, it turns into a thread. It's really cool, and if you use the Maxi Lock Stretch or the Wonderfill Soft Lock, these two both are ironable. So when your project is done, you can iron it. But of course, be careful with the vinyl, because with vinyl, it will melt. So be careful where you're putting your iron on to, what surface you're putting it onto. All right, so let's talk about the threading of this. So when you have a serger, you've got your 4 channels here on the top of your serger. You have your lower looper on your far right. You have your upper looper next to that. You have your right needle and your left needle, which makes sense because this is the far left of the machine. Now, when we're threading this, it's an entirely different threading path. So normally your lower looper goes straight down the lower looper channel and into the lower looper port. Your upper looper goes straight down the upper looper channel and into the upper looper port, etc. However, for this, it's a wave stitch. And what the wave stitch does is it rocks back and forth between the looper tensions, creating that wave. So this particular flat lock wave starts with the lower looper down the lower looper channel and into its port. Now, the upper looper is back where it's supposed to be here. However, it comes way over to the right needle channel and then travels down the right needle channel and across diagonally down into the upper looper port. All right, it gets even funkier. Your thread is on the right needle thread station where it's supposed to be. However, it comes into this upper looper channel. And from the upper looper channel, it travels over and threads the needle as usual. Very, very different. Okay, so when doing a flat lock, you put the wrong sides of your fabric together. So this particular project requires that I have the wrong side of my fabric against my vinyl. All right? Now, once you get that done, on a baby lock, you've got your stitch selector. So I have my stitch selector down on D for delicate. I have my wave selector on wave. I have my differential feed dogs set just a little bit lower than normal. I find that the fabric under the vinyl wants to stretch a little bit, so I'm trying to pull my fabric a little bit more flat. And also, once I hit the needle plate, I found that the vinyl sticks a little bit to the bed of the machine, so it's easier to do with the fabric facing the bed of the machine. I have my stitch width set to 4.0, and I have my stitch lengths just barely on 1. It's like 0.75, barely on 1. Okay, so when I start stitching, slow and steady wins the race on this. I have my fabric and my vinyl butted right up against my blade, and I have it tucked under my foot. This way there's a little bit of grab right here as I get started, okay? So basically I'm going to just sew a little bit here. So what it's created is this beautiful little wave stitch against it. All right, now let me step back here for 1 second. This is where the magic happens, however. Okay, so if I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the wrong side of my fabric against my vinyl, and the wave stitch is here. But the magic of a flat lock is that you put your wrong sides together, and then we are going to pull. So see how on this side we're only looking at needle thread, which is black, and this is the right side of my fabric. So this is not very pretty. However, once we pull, it manages to put this surface flat. So now we're looking at the right side of the fabric against the vinyl, and the beautiful decorative stitching is there on the right side of the fabric. Let me show you that one more time. So on this particular strip, you can see on the right side of the fabric, you're looking at your solid black, regular, by the way, serger thread. On the wrong side of your fabric, you're looking at the wrong side and the vinyl against the beautiful stitching. So again, we are going to take a hold of it. See what's going to happen here is that the fabric pulls. So we're pulling the needle thread onto the inside, the wrong side, which allows the beautiful stitching to roll out to the right side of the fabric. All right, so when I put this together, I decided let's just see if we can do this on a zipper. So I had this extra little scrap of fabric, and it works beautifully on the zipper. So on this circumstance, you have the inside or the wrong side of the zipper up against the inside or wrong side of your fabric. And you can serge directly over a zipper. Super easy. It just goes right on in. The blade cuts off any excess. You can see on the inside here, there's the thread. It's just a nice open needle thread because the beautiful stitching is happening out on top. All right, on this one, I decided to make it a little see-through pouch, and that was the original idea of the vinyl, is that if I need to see to grab my pen, I can just reach right into my bag. And because it's vinyl, I can reach in and grab my pen and I'm off and running. So that's the idea behind it. I hope you guys like this. It's a really exciting thing to do. It's something totally different than what most of us are used to doing. It's a whole different way of using vinyl, a whole different way of using your serger, a whole different way of using the flat lock, and it just totally changes things, shakes everything up. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.